Are we live? Are we on now? Okay. Welcome. I'm going to call to order the Finance Committee of September 26, 2023. Let's go around the room and let everybody introduce themselves so the people online know who's here. We'll start with you, and then we'll hit the walls.
Me?
Yes.
Sure. Mark Bergdorf, Alderman, Ward 1. Nice to meet you.
Rachel Collins, Alderman, Ward 5.
Tamara Ingersoll, Finance Director.
Scotty Bush, Hendersonville Fire.
Jesse Ecknroth, Chief of Operations.
Mayor Jamie Cleary.
Alderman Eddie Robertson, Ward 6.
Jeff Sassy, Alderman, Ward 3.
Karen Dixon, Alderman, Ward 4.
Steve Rozak, Citizen, Ward 5.
Great.
Andy Gilley, Parks Director.
Terry Goodwin, Alderman, Ward 4.
George Edwards, Hendersonville Fire.
And, okay.
Oh, sorry, Mike Cook, IT Manager.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, thank you all. Come on in, Casey. So, for our agenda tonight, we have at least one change to our agenda, and that's under minutes. It says approval of September 26th, that's today. So it needs to say July 25th, 2023.
I'll move for that change.
So can I get a motion to make that change? I'm sorry.
I'll move to make that change.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. So that passes. So now we're on to the acceptance of the total agenda. Can I get an approval for that?
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. That was unanimous. So the minutes from July 25th, is there any changes there? Any issue?
Nope.
I didn't see any.
Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Great. So we have unanimous there. Moving on. Oh, we need, is anyone here, citizen, wishing to make any comments? Great. So we'll move on to ordinance and resolutions. So our first ordinance is reading of 2023-20, an ordinance requesting citizens to determine by election whether to adequately fund public safety, infrastructure, parks, and paving in the city of Hendersonville by a small increase in sales tax of 0.5 penny per dollar for 10 years. I guess I'll turn this over to Eddie.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, committee. I had more extensive comments for tonight, unfortunately.
Okay.
But just to be brief, this is similar. This is a version of home rule. Everybody knows what home rule is. So this is a version of home rule where the citizens will determine the future and fate of our city. And I feel very confident that that's the best place to put it. It's a great opportunity for us to have a good discussion with the residents of the long-term consequences of both either voting for or against. So just like term limits, I think that this is the right approach to take. If the citizens come back, if the board approves it, and I hope to get a unanimous vote tonight, if the citizens come back and approve it, then we're going to make some humongous improvements in this city, not growing government, but improvements in the city in paving, in public safety, in infrastructure, and in parks. This will make a significant difference. So just a couple of the areas that I'll talk about a little more tonight that I think the infrastructure, I'm thinking Stop 30. I'm thinking New Shackle Island Road. I'm thinking Sanders Ferry Park or Sanders Ferry Road and other all across Exit 8, some kind of improvement in Exit 8. So I just think that this will give us the opportunity to really invest in our city and make a significant difference in our city. So I'm available to answer any questions. A few features that are unique in this is no other city or county that has improved this, and 69% of the cities in Tennessee have approved, have the higher sales tax. But no other city or county has put a sunset legislation on it. A sunset legislation would mean in 10 years it goes away unless the people vote again. Politicians will not be able to add any more time on the 10 years. It's set by statute or it's set by ordinance. And so it will sunset in 10 years. And I would think that the citizens would approve it if they're happy with the way the money's being spent, which takes me to my second point, transparency. This ordinance calls for the mayor in his or her future budgets to submit an itemization of how this money is spent. So annually, that's part that, and this committee will be the first to receive the mayor's proposed budget and can amend it, of course. But so the citizens will be able to see how much or how it's being spent. And there's accountability in the sunset provision of it. And last, it earmarks. It doesn't mean that government can spend this money on any purpose. It specifies in the ordinance that it has to go to paving, infrastructure, it has to go for public safety or parks. So those are the only 4 areas that the mayor in his future budget will be able to, and this committee, I'm sure, will hold the mayor's feet to the fire to make sure that that money is allocated appropriately. So
I'll be right back. I'm not leaving because of that point.
Okay.
So
You're excused.
I've said more than I intend to now, but I think that this is a great initiative. And again, let's just trust the people to make the right decision. Let's trust the people.
Those that have reached out to me, citizens, have been in favor of it. And the general consensus to me has been, I would rather redo this than raise property taxes,
Yes.
which I'm in favor as well. One question I do have is, or question, both. We read in the newspaper, Alderman Collins mentioned that the election commission has said this could be up to $188,000 to have this special election for this. That might be an issue for the board tonight. So it will pay for itself.
It will, but I could, speaking as one alderman, I could not support a special election, 180,000. So
Yes.
I think what that means, we're going to have to put it at either the presidential primary election in August, is it?
March or August.
March or August?
March or August.
So
Okay.
I think the 188,000 or whatever, I think that takes it out of it. It's not going to be a
And it was
special
only
election.
I
gonna
agree
be a
with you
few
there.
weeks early,
Right.
Yeah.
even if they did approve it.
So let's take that off. I mean, I don't know how the mayor is, but you know,
It wasn't in any of our documentation, so we
I
would
was
have to bring it
wondering
up.
about that.
and
I
let me
didn't see it,
say
but-
tonight, I'm going to have another amendment. This is a living document. I mean, we're only at the first reading tonight, but tonight I'm going to have an amendment to it dealing with sales tax on food. So I'll have an
Okay.
amendment
Okay,
So
that's
for
good.
discussion tonight.
My understanding is that's in there though, when I read it, talking about how we have to go to the state. Is that right?
Well, that's
To-
the amendment that I'll be offering tonight. It hasn't been approved, so I have to add that to that was in the packet.
Is it not in there? I thought it was in there.
No, it's not a part of the ordinance right now.
No,
Really?
general committee.
Where did I read
No,
that then?
it must have been maybe when you read the
Supporting
new packet.
documents.
Yes.
No, it's in the new packet here.
Oh, is in the new
In the
one?
general
Okay,
committee, it was not
That's what it was.
present.
Okay.
Yes.
Understood.
So
Thank
I
you.
will have
Okay.
that tonight.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the committee?
Yeah. Tamara, do you have an estimate on how much additional revenue this would bring in annually with this increase?
It was in the report here. That's off the top of my head. It's a substantial amount.
I thought it was 20.
It's
9 million,
roughly about 9 million.
Okay, no.
9 million.
So about 750,000 a month, which if you add that to what we did, we got 1.7 million last month. So that's an additional 750,000 a month. That's a significant
It
increase.
is. It is.
Yeah.
And Jesse, what Is this gonna go into the general fund? Or are we reserving a special fund since it's earmarked for specific areas of the city? How are we maintaining that money?
We would create a fund.
I think,
Okay.
I think it would have to be a sub-fund.
Yeah, we would track expenses and revenues in a separate category.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
So,
Yeah, that's all I have.
Great.
Thank you.
Now, just real quick, this half penny% increase, is that maxing it out? Is that maxing the sales tax out? It is. So that put us up at 10%,
No,
9.75.
And of that, the city would only get, I think it's of that,
And the rest is state county.
yes.
At what point do we address the timing as to when we want it on the ballot for people?
So, you remember when we did the ordinance on requiring registration of rental companies? This is about a year ago. We have to ask the state general assembly permission to do that. We missed the deadline by like a week. So now we're essentially waiting a whole year before we can implement that. I don't want to miss that deadline. So that's why I want us to pass first reading. The series of events that has to happen is first reading, then we submit the wording to the Department of Revenue, and then second reading. So I'd like to go ahead and pass first reading. We'll submit it to Department of Revenue. I don't know how long it takes them to get back to us.
Yeah.
At the same time, if the General Assembly decides that we can remove groceries, that's an option. It might be a reason not to do it in March, not to actually have the
So
ballot.
you're trying to
referendum in March.
exempt groceries.
That's what his
Is this
amendment
your
would be, yes.
amendment?
Yes. So we have March or August as options. If we leave it as it is, $750,000 a month, which is very appealing. However, there's gonna be this open question, if we hold it in March, does it supply to groceries or not? And the answer is gonna be, we don't know. So what I would like to see us do is pass first reading, let's get the wording approved, and then we can decide what to do on second reading.
okay.
Because we don't know how long it's gonna take to get the wording approved.
Okay. Does anybody in the room have any questions or comments?
Excuse me, Jeff. So what is a ballpark time frame? Getting approvals, getting this done, getting that done? What are we looking at as far as the schedule goes?
I just don't know.
And no history to guide us either way?
Not working with Department of Revenue, Department of Transportation,
Okay.
TDEC.
Yeah.
Comptroller, auditors, yeah, but not with Department of Revenue.
If we don't have it on the ballot until August, when does the tax go into effect? After an election, like
30
a month?
days.
That's what I thought. And then, but if it's not until August, then it won't, that's not in time for our budget.
Next budget
No.
year.
So we'll have to mayor will have to submit a budget, and if we get it, we may have to amend the budget.
Well, it would be a joy to amend it if we get it.
At that
Yes,
point, then.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I wish I knew the answer to your question.
I just wish that if it were at all possible to get it before
Yeah.
the budget.
I worry the Department of Revenue is going to get caught up on two things. Our wording is going to be different than other cities' wordings with the sunset provision and the separate account. And so the Department of Revenue is going to go, oh, we got to think about this one a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it does benefit the state too, so. Anything else? Ready to take a vote?
That's what I have.
Which, by the way, this has already been passed at general committee,
Unanimously.
so that's why
This
it's
exact
on.
language, I'm sorry, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
So that's why it's on Bowman's agenda tonight, right? So, but let's go ahead and take a vote from the finance committee. Can I get a motion to
So
move
moved.
to Bowman?
Yes. Second,
Okay, all those in favor?
aye.
Aye, that was unanimous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
So, our next ordinance is 2023, an ordinance amending ordinance 2023-11 to reflect final year adjustments to the city's 24 fiscal year budget. So, does Jesse want to talk about this or?
Sure, I'll get us started and then I'll let Tamara take it.
Okay.
We had talked about, when we approved the budget for this year, we wanted to show BOMA every dollar we were going to spend, and not just carry over project budgets from prior years that we didn't show BOMA. As part of doing that, we anticipated where our projects would end. And so now that we've closed the books, we know where they ended. So we're just going to true up based on the timing. You know, say if we had a $3 million project, we thought we were going to spend 1.5. Maybe we've actually spent 1.4 or 1.6. So this is going to true up the projects and then appropriate the appropriate amount for this year. So the dollar amount is not going to change. It's the timing of whether we actually completed it ahead or behind of schedule.
So I think bottom line, it's 40,000? How much was the bottom line?
Yes, and so there's an item in here too where we were
Was it 70?
40,000. We were planning on leasing computers,
Oh, additional 40.
and we were able to work directly through Dell to purchase them at a discount. And so if we purchase them at a discount instead of leasing them, we were able to save in the neighborhood of $10,000 to do that.
Okay.
And then the lease won't be there for year 2, 3, and 4. So it would be just an outright purchase instead of a lease, save some money on us doing that. And if we get into a lease, we don't have an option next year to hold back and not do it. And the lease would give us a quarter of the computers. So we have to stack 4 leases on top of each other. At that point, it's difficult if we have a bad year to say, you know what, let's not continue the lease.
Okay.
So it's just an outright purchase, purchasing through Dell Direct to save some money. But initially, it's an upfront cost. So that's in here. And then there's the project for the traffic signals to Drakes Creek Road. That project, the developer is getting ready to complete that project. So the traffic signals need to go in. That's going to be paid for from fees that we collected from Durham Farms. So it's not coming out of the city's general fund. They gave us fees. So
Great.
we'll use those fees to purchase that traffic signal. There was a donation that was given to Fire, the Learn Not to Burn program. I think we'd put it in a restricted fund balance. So we're just showing that. There was one other item in here, I think insurance. So new grant funded items, insurance, $250,000. That was just a line item that we'd included in the totals in the budget, but we never specifically put the line item in the budget. So this will clean it up to put that line item in the budget. And that's for if we get this opportunity to apply for these smaller grants, we don't have to wait the 6 or 8 week process to go through BOMA for grant projects. We have a line item that we can use to go ahead and pursue grant projects.
Okay. Any questions from the committee?
Not for me.
Alderman Burkholder, do you have
Oh,
any
no,
questions?
no, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jesse.
You made that easy.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to move this to BOMA?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Our last is a resolution of 2023-35, resolution to revise and update the fund balance and reserve policy for the city of Hendersonville. So this creates like a new fund for public safety, so we're amending it for that. Jesse or Tamara, you want to take us through that?
Sure, I'm on a roll.
Okay.
Okay.
We've talked about, we developed a fund balance, I think about 2 years ago. We did the fund balance policy. We said, hey, it's a really good idea for cash flow purposes to meet the comptroller's minimum recommendation to have some cash, working cash. Revenues go up and down, expenses go up and down. So comptroller recommends 2 months of working cash to pay your bills. On top of that, we talked about doing an infrastructure reserve because we know we have these large projects that come along, and unless we have money set aside, it's very difficult to do those projects. So we established an infrastructure reserve, and then we established a prudent reserve, which we've all coined rainy day reserve. So we're going to clean it up and just call it a rainy day reserve, since that's what we always refer to it as. And then when we were going through the budget, we had mentioned public safety reserve, although it had never been officially adopted in the fund balance. So what we're doing here is officially adopting that as another reserve. We talked about it. I think most of BOMA and staff assumed that it was something that already existed within the fund balance policy. So this just memorializes it
Yeah.
into the policy. And then it establishes some goals for the public safety, rainy day, and infrastructure reserve. So it's just it's an update to it. We hadn't, when we originally adopted the policy, if you remember, we anticipated it taking years and years and years just to get to the comptroller's recommendation. So we weren't so concerned with limits of these reserves because we thought it would be years and years and years before we got to establishing a limit of what we thought was appropriate for these reserves.
We
But
were throwing around 5 years.
5 years and 8
12,
months.
Yeah.
But, we also, projects weren't as expensive as they are now. So now when we talk about 5 or 10 or 15 or $20 million, it doesn't purchase the same as it did 2 or 3 years ago as we see these project costs come in. I think the fire hall is a great example. It was double what we thought it was going to be. So, and that's not a big building. It's a very handsome building, but it's, it's over $5 million to do one building. So this just sets some of the goals. It memorializes the public safety reserve. It's just an update to the policy.
Any questions from the committee?
I don't have it.
Any questions from anyone in the room?
How much is currently in the rainy day reserve?
Couple million.
Yeah, I want to say it was like 2.1 or 2.2 million.
So we're going through the financial statements right now. So we'll have a report to BOMA, an audited financial statement, which will list the reserves.
Okay, great.
It's north of a couple million.
That's was going to be my next ask. So thank you.
Yeah.
And there's no time frame built into this, right? So it's just we're just funding these on the excess. Is that right?
Correct.
So each year, at the end of the fiscal year, is when we would determine how much we're putting in.
That's what the policy says. Yeah. After we've met all the requirements of the city, if there's surplus, it would get split among these reserves. BOMA could always say, let's go ahead in the budget and plan to put some in reserves. It's a conservative measure, but that's not the way the policy is written.
Yeah, and we had anticipated year-end fund balance that would go to the reserves in the budget that was presented, but it was just an estimate. So we'll have actuals. You won't see it until probably January. The audit will be done the end of December, and then you'll see the actual audited.
We do
amounts.
plan to bring a preliminary though. When this goes to BOMA, we're going to have an unaudited version, which might change a little bit by the time the books are audited.
Yeah.
But it should be pretty close. So we should have that. Actually, we'll have it to you before.
Okay,
The unaudited.
The
version.
unaudited version.
perfect. Thank you. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. So can I get a motion to move this forward?
Motion to send it to MoMA.
Second.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, that passes unanimously. Now, I guess I'll just turn it over to Tamara for other business
All
for our
right.
sales tax, hotel, motel, investment earnings, and stormwater.
All right, so the first two sheets that you all have are the state share and the local sales tax analysis. As you can see, the growth from prior year to the current year has slowed quite a bit.
Yes.
And so your year-end anticipated revenues for both of these compared to budget, the state share sales tax, because we did budget a bit low on that, we're still anticipated to receive slightly more than last year. So we're still looking pretty good, about 600,000 anticipated over budget at this point in time. But when you look at the local sales tax compared to budget, we're looking like we may come in just slightly under budget on that because we did budget a little bit higher on that.
Okay.
Now, we do only have 2 months, so as the year goes on, this could adjust a little bit. We're anticipating that when Costco comes online, that we're gonna see a bump in the sales tax there. There's a lot of folks that drive down to Nashville to go to Costco.
Mhm.
That will come to ours, so I think we'll see a little bit of a bump there, but we won't know what that looks like until, December, January, when we're receiving
Yeah.
those revenues, assuming that Costco opens in November.
Okay.
So,
They're still saying it's gonna be mid-November.
yeah, I saw their announcement the
Yeah.
other day,
They didn't
so.
make that announcement if they weren't sure.
I know, well,
Hopefully they make it before
They-
Black Friday.
yeah, it said November 15th is what the announcement I saw said.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And they're making some significant progress. Drove by there today.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive how quickly they put that thing up.
Yeah, we need to see if we can build fire halls.
That's right.
You know, you can get anything if you have
they-
enough cash.
They can, just on a really large scale. Largest fire department.
How many outlets do you need?
I will tell you what the mayor told me earlier this year when I said, how can they build Costco this fast? He probably doesn't even remember. I said, how can they build it that fast? He said, Karen, it's a warehouse. It's 4 walls. I was like, oh, you're right. Do you remember that?
Well,
Yeah.
the guy building it, this is all he does, is build Costco.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, they pick this team up and take them wherever they're building.
Yeah.
They don't play around.
they do not, that is the truth. They know what they're doing.
Yeah,
Hotel
so,
130
yeah, so
days.
sales tax, we
What's
just
that?
need to monitor it closely, I think.
Yeah, it's concerning.
Yeah. So hotel motel is looking good. We received payments from all of the hotels. As of today, we got the last few. They all, with the exception of one of them, paid the new 4% rate. The one that didn't paid us at 3.75%. So they paid us an increased rate, but it was incorrect. So I've reached out to them to let them know that they missed 0.25% on it.
Wow.
Fortunately, it was a very small dollar. It was only $800 something is what they
Oh,
paid.
okay.
So the impact was very, very minimal.
Yeah.
It was just, a couple dollars. It wasn't anything significant. So they did all pay, and you can see that reflected here.
Yeah.
If this hadn't been paid at the higher rate, then we would be looking at very similar dollar value to last year
Yeah.
on that. So you can definitely see the increase because of that.
Yes.
So it's looking
Great.
good there. And then want to look at the investment
Yes.
earnings. So the top one is FY23, the top section. And you can see it wasn't until April where we really started investing and earning anything significant. And then for the current year, you'll notice that for July and then August is a little bit less, even though the interest rate went up. The reason for that, most of our property tax payments come in January and in February. So as we move through the rest of the year, our total cash on hand kind of goes down a little bit. And then when we get into December, we'll start getting some. And then January, February, you'll see that jump back up. So we're going to see that amount dropping a little bit, and then it'll increase as we start doing the property tax collections. We'll probably see a little bit of a steady come October, November, December, and then January, February, it'll bump back up.
Great. That's wonderful.
But we're looking good. If we stay kind of on target compared to where we're at now, we're going to come in over what we budgeted for that.
Well, last July and August, we got $9,000.
Yeah. Yeah, combined for the 2 months.
Great work. Great work.
So,
Okay.
and then the last one is the stormwater fund. And this one, when we budgeted for stormwater, our expenditures and our revenues, we budgeted very, very close to all of the anticipated revenues. And so one of the recommendations when they sent their letter back from the comptroller's office was that we do a monthly report out to finance committee, to the board, just looking at where we're at as far as our current fund balance for stormwater, just to make sure we're not going to end up going in a deficit position. So we're on top of it. So I put together our, this analysis just so we can, keep an eye on this through the year. I don't have any concerns about it. We budgeted the way we did to make sure that we were able to move forward with the projects that Sarah's got in mind. But I don't have any concerns about where we're at. I mean, as you can see, we have plenty of funds there to, begin working on projects. Some of the projects in there are budgeted with some grant reimbursement funds. And so you pay them up front and then you have to get reimbursed after. And so because of that, there could potentially be a timing issue. So we just need to monitor this. And you'll see on here, the first handful of months of the fiscal year, there's little to no revenues coming in. That's because the stormwater fees are collected as part of property taxes. So we get so few of them coming in those first few months of the year. And actually the revenues that are there are primarily, it's interest that has been earned on the stormwater fund.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Any questions? Any other business tonight? This evening?
Tamara, great reports. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome so much. Can I get a motion to move to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I copy it?
Thank you, Mike.